Hello and welcome to Sourdough's Baked Goods. Today we're going to be making our second attempt on our sourdough. We had a bit of problems last time, but we're going to try and fix it this time. So let's get into it. So let's first start by putting our yeast, which is our sour mix, into our bowl. Okay, now that we got this done, let's make sure we feed our starter before we move on. So with your last little bit of starter, we're gonna put in half water, half flour of whatever you used. So I used 160 grams, so make sure you put 80 grams of flour and 80 grams of water into this mixture. That way you keep the same amount every time. So and I just realized I put bread flour in there, but that's okay. Regular flour will work, but I do want to keep it as a rye flour, or sorry, not rye, whole wheat flour. So we're gonna put the rest as whole wheat. Now that's not a big deal because you are going to be using regular flour for the recipe most of the time, so it's not going to change too much. But if you want to make a whole wheat sourdough that's only whole wheat, you gotta make sure that you don't mess up like that. And after I use this starter a few more times, like I don't know, 2 or 3 more times, most of that regular flour will be out of there and it will go back to being a whole wheat one. But when you're in a bakery sense, you do need to make sure that you're consistent, so you don't want to be messing up like that if you're owning a bakery. But if you're at home, it doesn't matter so much. Luckily I didn't use too much of that flour, so that I at least got some more whole wheat back into it. So once we fed our starter, we'll put it into the fridge and get back to our dough. Okay, so now that we're back to our actual dough, we're going to put in flour, salt, and water. We're going to mix the flour, water first, and then the salt at the end. Now that our flour is mixed in, we'll add in our water. Once you've mixed it like halfway, like about this, you can add in your salt. So this allows the yeast to start working everywhere before you let the salt kill anything. Normally, if you're doing a big batch, just like with any other loaf, you're going to want to mix the salt with your water and a little bit of your water. So you'll put probably 200 grams of water in here and then use the last 30 grams to mix with your salt so that it's diluted and mixes thoroughly throughout all your doughs. But when we're only having one loaf, it's okay to just put salt in there directly. And because this is all my testing, I'm going to continue to do it that way. So now we don't need that, we'll put that to the side. We'll mix in our salt. All of it's out of our bowl. Make sure you keep that bowl if you're going to use it for your proofing. I have these nice little baskets, so I don't need to, but again, if you don't have these baskets, you're gonna have to use your metal bowl. You can proof it in there with, for example, your cloth with flour on it. Now, you don't have to do that for the first proofing, because the first proofing is just to get the double in size and then you punch it down. But after that, if you don't do it, it's going to stick to your bowl, your metal bowl, and then not be as nice when it comes out. So we're just gonna start kneading and we'll come back when it's all nice and done. Okay, so now that we're done kneading it, it bounces back. We're gonna put it back into our bowl, cover it, and then come back once it's doubled in size. And just like last time, which you saw just a few days ago, This takes double the time because it's fresh yeast from the air, from the water, from the flour. It's not the strong yeast that we cultivate ourselves. So make sure you come back. It's gonna probably be like 2 hours or so. Unless you have your own proofer, which makes everything go faster. Okay, so now that our dough has doubled in size, very puffy. Not as puffy as a normal dough because, again, this is sourdough. Just gonna use a bit of flour to help me. If you can hear that, that's me popping all those air bubbles. We need to get all of those out. That will help it rise evenly throughout the dough instead of bubbling on one side. Make sure you get everything out of this bowl. Just making sure all of it's out. Make sure you don't have to clean this with water, and you don't want to clean this with water because it'll rot the wood and any bits of flour stuck in there will mold. So every 2 weeks to a month, take a brush or pick out all the flour and clean it that way. It works a lot better than using water. So we're just gonna try and get all that air out. It's a bit harder to do that with sourdough because it doesn't bubble up similar to normal bread. So just take your time with it, and then we're just gonna knead it back into the shape we want, and we'll put it into our oven after that. Okay, now that we're back to shape, remember this is the top, so when you flip this upside down, this needs to be on the top, so we're going to put that face down just like so, cover it, and then again let it proof for about 2 hours, and then after that you should be ready to go. Make sure you have your oven ready. This time, to try and make sure that doesn't explode on that one side like last time, I'm going to cut it a bit deeper, make sure the whole square that I cut is nice and deep, and to put some steam into the oven, just like how I did for the rye dough. So we're going to see how that works, and hopefully this attempt works. The last attempt tasted fine, so everything was good for taste, so the recipe's fine. It's just needing some work on the execution. So let's come back in 2 hours. Okay, so it's been 2 hours. We've heated up our oven. You can see it's doubled in size. Perfect. Now, let me just grab a knife. See, it's not cutting too well, so this isn't a sharp enough knife. But as long as I cut deep enough, I'm gonna get a deep enough cut that's going to expand as it cooks, which will help that exploding to not happen. I've also added that pan of water, which you'll see when I take this out of the oven, just so it can steam it at the very beginning to help with it. Now I'm not going to show you right now just because I need it to start steaming up and heating up. So just like this, you see how it's spread out more? It's going to bake up nicely now and not have that same problem. So let's put it in the oven and we'll come back once it's done baking. Okay, it's been 25 minutes, so let's take this bad boy out. As you can see, I still have the water just down there. A nice loaf. Always make sure to check it by flipping it over, and you hear wood. This is a lot better than the last one. It still kind of exploded right here, but still has that rustic look, so it still looks semi-decent. But I feel like I can fix this even more. And we're gonna have to do attempt 3 for this one, sadly. But practice makes perfect. But this would be... it's so close to being good enough to sell. So close. It just looks too ugly right here for me. So, stay tuned for attempt 3. So this is how it turned out. It's got a nice rustic look, but not perfect for me. So I'm gonna have to continue to practice on this one. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I even have my own website. Thank you, and have a nice day.